There we are. Good evening. How's everyone doing? Friday, very cold Friday. Chris is here, but she's too important to appear on camera, even though she's not been on camera for about a month and a half. But that's all right. I'll do it alone. I'm used to it. Hello, Karen. How are you? Yes, Happy New Year, everyone. Happy New Year. Hope it's a good one so far. We're one day in. It's great. How's everyone doing? Hello, Anna. How are you? Yeah, Chris is over there looking at her phone. She don't want to be bothered. Go figure. One man show. Anyway, hey Laura, how are you? So yes, I am. I'm feeling better. The cold is finally gone. The congestion's finally gone, and I actually feel as normal as I can feel. I guess. Except for this damn cold, man. I hate the friggin' cold. You wonder why those older people all get out of Jersey and they all go move to like Florida or whatever. Man, I'd go right with them if I could. I hate the cold. But anyway, I had a good time. Hey, Jay, how are you? Happy New Year. I had a good time. Speaking of Jay, I'll segue that right into the Creeper Gallery. I had a good time. What night was that? Tuesday? Tuesday night? Very cold in that building. Really cold. When I get in there, Donna turns the heat down because she don't want to pay for heat if she's not open during the week. So you get in there, man, and it is cold. So I turn the thermostats up. I bring out this little space heater, and I heat it while I'm setting up and figuring out what I'm going to do. And then I turn it all off when I start so that there's not any more contamination than there already is in that building. So I'm looking around, and it had been, 2-3 weeks since we had been there, at least, maybe. So I'm looking for any new objects that are there, and I see there's new, and there's these new mirrors that are up on the ledge there. I don't know what they're like. They're all from like the same time frame or something. There was a whole collection of them, and I think now there's a few more, and I wasn't really interested in doing that. And then there was the one thing that I have put off investigating, and Jay's on. So, hey, Happy New Year, Christopher. I don't even remember the name of it. That's why I didn't want to investigate. I probably couldn't even pronounce it anyway. But it belonged to a woman who survived one of the concentration camps. So I was like, oh, you know, that's a little heavy, right before New Year's Eve. So I'm like, yeah, I probably won't do that one. So now I'm looking and I saw the all the different artifacts from what was it, Gabon, Africa. And I read the one, and the one was pretty simple. Words I can pronounce, easy to understand. And that was the one with the multi-face statue. And I'm like, I'll do that one. That's one I'll do. And then I'm thinking maybe I'll just do one, and that'll be it. But I always have two just in case. So well, in the old days we used to do three. I don't know how we did that. Remember that? Doing three of those in the old days? Pay attention over there? No. I said about doing three objects in the old days. We used to do three.
We did.
You can hear her. She's there. But two's usually pretty good. So I'm looking around. Yeah. How do you pronounce that, Jay? Etrog? Oh boy, I really would have butchered that one. But so I'm looking around for something else to do other than the two ritual items, and I really couldn't find anything. There was that one mannequin that had a dress on it, but the mannequin is real fragile, and I knew I would have broken that thing if I tried to lift it. So I'm like, all right, two artifacts. Let's do that. Even though the one had so many words I couldn't pronounce on it, I actually spent my time after I set up the whole room on Google, and I'm Googling how to pronounce the word. How do you pronounce this word? How do you pronounce that word? And I'm writing it down the way they're pronouncing it, but it didn't help. But anyway, interesting, very interesting. I prefer, hey, John McGinnis, hey, David. I actually prefer the ritualistic. I prefer ritualistic items and items that belong to spiritual people because they seem to react pretty quickly, and it doesn't take much to interact with them. So that's what happened. I have never gotten in that building for sure. I've never gotten such clear spirit box responses ever. And not in that building. That building's in some kind of weird zone when it comes to the spirit box. But I got a lot of good responses over the spirit box with those two items, which just means, in theory, their frequency is higher. They give off more energy, and it's easier to make the connection. So I was really pleasantly surprised. Hey, Alex, how are you? So I was. By the first one, I was really pleasantly surprised. And, I go through, I do the EVP stuff. There were some reactions with the equipment. And while I'm thinking of doing the second one, I'm looking at the time and I'm thinking, God, I don't have a whole lot of time to put into the second object. But I'm like, let me start it and see what happens. And while I'm doing that face with the dreads, the lights in the other room are really reacting the whole time as if either they were still stirred up or they were waiting. And I think that particular piece that was supposed to protect the bones of the ancestors from people trying to steal them or use them for sacrilegious reasons. I think that one, I don't think they mixed good with the energy that were there in the red room. I got that feeling the whole night that there was, even after I got off the live stream and I'm putting everything away, I heard something fall and I couldn't tell where it came from. And I'm like, well, where did that happen? And in the back room on the shelves that are on the right, if you're heading back towards the bathroom, something fell off and onto the floor. and I didn't touch anything on those shelves or move anything from over there. So it was really weird. I really do get the feeling that whatever those items are and the energy spirits surrounding them does not mix well with whatever's in the red room at all. I mean, not the red room, in the deemed dangerous section. I don't think that's a good mix. And I think whoever's connected to those ritual items are really, really leery of the people and the spirits that are over there. That's the impression I got. And it's weird to how that's where one of those things where you wonder if you did have um, cameras running, all night long there with those objects now in the mix, if there was any weird stuff happening, things moving on their own or just weird shadows that you would see. Because, yeah, when you get those strange mixtures, we've had that in the past too, where I actually had an object ask me through EVP and Spirit Box to move them out of one case away from something to another case, away, nowhere near this one. I think it might have been that Ouija board from years and years ago. Just one item did not like where it was and the energy that was with it. And it did during the investigation. It let me know that, hey, I don't want to be anywhere near this stuff. Could you move me? And I did. When I left, I opened up the other case, put it on another shelf, and texted Donna and told her what I did. And oh god, that was crazy too. I forgot all about that, Karen. That was really, really crazy. I went back and watched that, and I am like, it didn't occur to me right away why it was like the light wasn't shining in my face and it was darker all of a sudden around me. And I kind of was like, what's changed? Something's different, and then I looked up and I saw the flashlight wasn't where it was. And logic would dictate that if it fell off a ledge 3 foot high or whatever it was, 2.5 feet high, even if it came down and caught the edge of the countertop, it would fall to the right and be on the floor kind of right there, or it would have fell to the left and just kind of like maybe a foot or something, one way or the other. But that was 5 feet away, and it was in between two things. So it wasn't even as if it hit the ground and rolled, because there's no way it would have rolled and then set in between those things. So yeah, I forgot about that. That was really weird. Really weird. And that's the stuff that freaks you out a little bit, where you're like, like what else could happen here? And should I be messing with this anymore if this is what it's doing already? Yeah, that was weird. And then the thing fell at the end of the night. I didn't even put those things together, which is kind of strange, because I was, again, I kind of wore out after the first object. I was kind of spent. I was congested. I was getting tired. I was like, what am I doing here? And then on the drive home, I was tired, so it was fun though. When it gets interesting like that, it keeps you awake and it keeps you engaged. And I was like, yeah, this is different. And I didn't want to do either one of those objects. I really didn't. When I walked in there and I'm like, I looked down that shelf and I'm like, I'm reading all the stuff and I'm like, nothing really grabbed me. So I'm like, what else? What else? I was even going to do some old stuff, but I knew Donna would kill me if I did the old stuff and I left the new stuff. But I was going to go back and do some old stuff from either the deemed dangerous room or just one object that I hadn't done in a really long time. I was thinking about it, but I know I would have gotten a text from Donna saying, hey, man, I got 2 mirrors. I got all these ritual items. I got that other thing that's been there forever. And for that one, I keep talking to Jay about coming in there and investigating that. How do you say it again? How do you say it again, Jay? A, et, etrog, etrog, because Jay is Jewish, and Jay knows a lot more, I'm sure, about the religion and the history than I do. So to do the diligence and do it with the proper respect, um, I'd rather have someone there who that person could relate to rather than me talking about um, what I've read about in books and what I've seen on documentaries and stuff. You can't really relate on a human level, based on that. So it would be interesting to see. And again, if anything were to happen, I'd rather it happen to Jay than me anyway. So, you should come over and say hello, Princess, for 2 minutes. Okay. She's still not 100%. So, hi to all this way. Is it a full moon? No, it's not a full moon. It's cold. I know that much. But I wanted to again jump on, talk about the Creeper Gallery investigation, and it's always different and experience when, hey, Happy New Year, Llewyn, when you go in there and you see new objects and you don't know. Sometimes you read the best information and you investigate it and you don't get, like, I think that was during the event we did at her gallery. That one doll belonged to, I think, the husband. I think he tried to murder the wife and the baby. I can't remember the whole story, but I think he was executed. I don't remember the whole story, but I saw that doll and I was like, damn, like this is going to be a good one with good energy. And no, not a lot came through there at all. Yet there was that cradle with the children that died in it, and that was super active. So it's the fun of not knowing, when you investigate some of these objects. So I really shouldn't go in with any set attitude over what could be active and not after all these years, because you never know. And they surprised me. Objects like that kind of they kind of I don't know, they're strange to me because you wonder um, what they draw as far as energy, and you wonder, like I said, with the deemed dangerous objects, how they interact with other energies that they're not used to being subjected to or around. And those would be the ones that I would be leery of. And I know that sounds strange because it's not bad energy. It's just energy that's seems to be not so familiar with. I mean, what energy would be familiar with a room full of haunted objects and different people, you know? But those in particular are meant for specific things spiritually. And now all of a sudden you throw them into this room where there's just objects with, that are rumored to have all different people from all different walks of lives, some good, some bad, attached to them. And you don't know what's going to happen. It's cool because it's almost the same principle as bringing different people into different places and different buildings and different rooms, and having a different set of people from different backgrounds, different religious beliefs, and different parts of the world, and seeing how spirits react to that as well, which is kind of different. I was reading, I don't want to say the person's name because he might not want it public, but somebody had mentioned a dream that they had, and a very vivid dream, and they were looking for an interpretation of the dream. And I don't know if you guys remember, but we had done at least 3 or 4 times. Jefferson did the dream interpretation with us live, and I enjoyed those. I really did, because it was like out there. And I was wondering about doing that again to see if, hey, Donna, if anybody was interested in doing that again. Again, that's something you need volunteers for, and that's something you need to remember the dream. I have probably 3 dreams that are in my phone that I texted to myself when I woke up because Jefferson got me in the habit of doing that with certain dreams. So I have like 2 or 3 of them that I guess he can analyze, but it'd be cool to see if anybody wanted to do that and get again and see if I could get Jefferson to come back on and do another session. I enjoy those. I do. I just enjoy watching them and listening and boy, we had some doozies through the years too when we were doing that. Um, and I'm setting up an interview probably sometime in January. Hopefully, maybe. Um, I've been talking to Amy Bruni about coming on, so we're trying to figure out a date. So that might be a first. Would be a first because we've never interviewed Amy, and we've known her for how many years she's been coming to the expo. And what was funny was somebody had sent me a screenshot. I guess they were watching Kindred Spirits today. Maybe there was a marathon, and it was our episode. So somebody's like sent me a screenshot and like, you're in my house right now. And I was like, oh, cool. They're showing that episode. And again, it was funny because, Amy and I had talked a few times about her coming on, but we never were able to work it out. So I think that will be happening in January, some point. Don't know when, but I do think it will. So, um, you know, anything you guys want to know or any questions you have once we announce it, don't be afraid to just send me a message through Messenger saying, hey, I'd like to know this, I'd like to know that, or whatever. Um, that's why we do it. I've got a bunch of questions of my own, and and I'll stay away from the drama stuff because there's enough of that out there. So I don't really like to get bogged down and all of that stuff. So, anything you guys want to know or want to ask her, like I said, when we announce it, just send me a message. And, I like, I watch that show like everybody else, Ghost Hunters. And to me, when they were at their best, I mean, they were really great in the beginning. But when they had Grant and Jason, Steve and Dave together, and Chris Williams and Amy Bruni, I think the show was really good then. And those, not in the beginning, but those times were really, really good. And, you like to know how that whole thing got started, how that whole thing ended, and how they kindred spirits and, all that other stuff. It's all interesting to ask and what their perspective is on it. Some interviews are different than others. Some are just kind of, I don't know, kind of like magazine. Like, I don't know how to describe them. They're just kind of generic. And others you do, and you find out stuff and you're like, oh my God. Like, we interviewed Chris Williams a year or 2 ago, and man, that was crazy. Found out a lot of stuff about her that I never knew about her life after she left Ghost Hunters. And Chris Williams, again, I judge people by my interaction with them. I try to keep anything I see and read kind of out of that stuff when it comes to anybody, even friends of mine. So I mean, how people are when they're around me and when they're with me, I mean, that's kind of how I judge people and interact with them. We're not always going to agree on everything all the time, so best to just stick to the subjects that we know aren't going to get us in trouble. So it's funny today because I was going back and forth. Tanya and I a little we're talking back and forth. I mean, we we're still all friends, and you know I miss having them around, miss having Tanya around, and she's you know doing her own thing, and she's happy, and um, so we were going back and forth joking like we always do, and then like right after that, I get a text from Danielle, who's part of the group, saying, "Hey, where's the schedule? Where's the schedule for 2026?" And I'm like, you know, there's there's the there's the concept of a schedule, but there's no official schedule yet. Meaning, um, event events are kind of penciled in for sometimes different places in May and some in June and August and some in October and stuff like that. I mean, the outline of that, but excuse me, um, New Jersey Paranormal event number one for 2026 has not been scheduled yet. So um, I'm kind of going back and forth on this one. Um, I know a lot of people um, wanted us to go back to the Burlington prison. I know you guys mentioned that last year. We didn't get to do that. So I'm thinking of maybe kicking it off with that because I do get along with the people in the Historic Society very well. And we didn't get a chance to do one last year. So this would be the first time we did it with Nikki and Danielle, and with new and different things that we have, equipment that we didn't have um, last time we were there, which was at least 2 years ago, I guess. So that alone will make it different. And that, again, we'll be using different stuff and trying different experiments in a place we've been in before. So, hey, Ed, how are you? Happy New Year. Um, I've been kicking around the idea of doing that first, just because, um, again, everybody was asking last year and we didn't get to do it. And like I said, um, Nikki and Danielle have never really gotten to um, lead the groups there. They've been there because they've come to our events, but it'd be interesting to see what that dynamic is like. I guess so. I don't know. I'm kind of thinking of that. I'm not sure when, if it will be uh, end of January, um, beginning of February. I guess I'd have to check with them. Um, Inskeep, Inskeep. God, I guess yeah. Inskeep may be a viable thing in the winter because that building is usually warm all the time, no matter what. So Inskeep may be, yeah, they may be viable to be one of the first um, out of the gate. So yeah, maybe. I mean, like I said, I gotta take a look and really um, get an idea of what we want to do and when we want to do it. I don't want to bunch everything together either, and I want to give some time in between. But I don't know. I'm leaning towards Burlington Prison in Mount Holly. I'm leaning towards that as being the first one. I don't know. I don't know if that's something you guys are interested in or not, but it's been a while since I've been there, and I did like that place a lot. And like I said, they've been good to us, and um, I've got some new experiments that I'd like to try there myself. So it's funny because I still, you know, we meet a lot of friends through, of course, New Jersey Paranormal, and um, some we've known for years, some we've known for a year, but um, Brian and Ann and Taylor, um, we've known them for a couple of years now, I think, and they came to the Burlington prison for an investigation, and I was in the basement, and that's where the warden killed. I mean, the warden was ambushed and killed by a prisoner along with the trustee. And so what I was doing was I was taking people and I was putting them in cells and I was closing the door and doing some other stuff. And the group had ended and we were going to take a little break and the lights were still out and everyone was kind of going wherever, and I'm about to leave too, and I'm heading up the stairs, and Taylor and it was like, where's I'm like, who? They're like, I think was it a brother or was it a cousin? And so I'm like, oh, was he still in the cell? I left him in the cell. I totally forgot all about him. I told him to just sit there and kind of put some equipment, put stuff in there with him, and told him to just be quiet. And I guess he didn't hear that I was telling everybody to leave, but I left him in there. Forgot all about him. So it could happen. It has happened. But that's where I saw one of the largest shadow figures that I've ever seen at the Burlington prison, right where the warden was murdered. That shadow figure was probably 6'4", 6'5", and it was a complete outline of a person. So pretty cool. Didn't get a chance to capture it on my camera though. One regret that I have is that I didn't. But that place is warm for sure. In the summer, they crank the heat, man. It's actually hot in there in January. We've been there in January, so it's hot. So I don't know. I'm thinking about it. That could be the first one. I don't know. Chris saw a shadow figure behind the upstairs dead there. Yeah. Just make sure the person turns off their sound effects. Makes for what? I don't know what you're talking about. Their sound effects. I haven't been there in a while. They don't really have sound effects when we were there. They have the audio tour thing that you could do, but I don't remember anything about sound effects. But again, it's been a while. So I know they were talking about doing some new displays. So we'll see what happens. But like I said, that's what I'm currently in. Inkscape would be interesting as well because Inkscape it would be interesting as well because it's always interesting. That basement is like I don't know. I wouldn't call it a portal because I don't know if spirits are coming in and out or if they're just in. I don't know. But that basement is one of the most interesting places that I'm able to go in, and I really, really have a good time. The only thing I don't like about that basement is that there's one particular beam when you go downstairs that I hit my head on every single time. And if you know me and you know how many basements I've been in during the year, you would laugh because by the end of the year, no matter where I am, when we were in Waynesboro and anywhere, I'm walking, I'm putting my head down, and people are looking at me. I'm like, I'm desperately afraid I'm going to hit my head because I hit my head so many damn times through the year in basements. Hey, Taryn, how are you? But yeah, that was that's a cool place, man. Never, ever, ever did I think that place would be like that. It's those sometimes the ones you don't expect that jump out at you. Another thing that happened that was funny today, or was it yesterday? Donna's dog Momo. If you've ever seen pictures of Donna's dog Momo, he's a little white fluffy dog with pointy ears, and Momo likes me. Momo apparently, according to Donna, like will watch, well, because they watch our live streams from home, Donna and Joe, her husband. So they put us on the TV and they'll watch the investigation. So Donna knows what happens so she can take notes and whatever. And she's like, Momo always watches. She's like, if I go watch in the bedroom, Momo will jump up and kind of like sit there and listen to you. And she sent me pictures of Momo on the floor. Here I am on the screen, and Momo's on the floor, and he's just kind of looking up at me. She's like, he sat there for 20 minutes watching you. And I'm like, well, there you go. I found my market, animals. So now I got to pitch a show to the Animal Planet or something, maybe. But it was funny to see that picture. And that's, you guys that were there at that event, you met Momo. Momo's such a loving dog, but man, he doesn't shut up. He barks all the time. So that's what was, you know, like I said, when it comes to the Inscape, it was a place we went into, like many others, where it was like, yeah, you know, people have seen this, and they were describing like the stairs, and they were describing the second floor, and they were describing the other part of the house. That was the oldest part of the house, the original part of the house. But everywhere we go, I ask the same question. Do you have an attic? Do you have a basement? And they're like, yeah, but you know, we don't really go down there. People don't really go down there. Yeah, and usually either or. In the old days, if the buildings are that old, the servants either lived down or up, mostly up. But the servants usually, and a lot of these older buildings, if you've been in as many as I have, God knows why they did this, but some of the stairwells for the servants are like angled. They're like crooked. They wind down, and the steps are kind of narrow. It's like these people. I get it. They're in some cases they were property, I guess, but you know they are the ones still taking care of you and doing stuff for you and all that. And here they're risking their lives, like coming down these stairs whenever you ring your bell or whatever. It's just like I've been in at least 5 buildings where I've seen those servant stairs, and I was like, oh my God, what? And Inscape has one of those, and there's a few others that have them as well. And it's just like, you know, you would think, you know, that they, I don't know, make things a little safer for them if they're going to be, you know, working for them all the time. But no, they did not mention the basement. They said we really don't go down in the basement. And I went down there very first time, and the reason I went down there was because it was dead of summer and it was hot as hell in the building, and I knew the basement was the only cool place in the building, cooler, I should say. And I went down there, and I still remember Kathy, who's not watching, I don't think, but I don't know why we brought up religion, but we brought up religion. And I'm like, well, hey, let's test that. Kathy had a cross on. I took it off. I hung it in this archway that they had, and boom, energy everywhere. Like all of a sudden, I flipped a switch, and away they went. And ever since then, every time I get more and more information from passerbys telling me different things about stuff that may have happened on that property at some point. All of the other houses, yeah, Luann. It's kind of common, you know, and it's strange because you know a lot of those historical houses are from affluent people from back in those times anyway, and there are lots of fireplaces everywhere, and um, you know, big rooms. The houses are still around, so they were made to last. You know, I've seen some craftsmanship that was crazy in those buildings with the woodwork and the marble and all that. And yet you go up top and there's the servant quarters, and then there's these stairwells that just kind of go woo, woo, straight down. And like I said, it's not even the fact that they kind of go down the way they do, they're real narrow as well. The steps. So you're thinking again. Imagine again. I don't want to get too far into this, but it's the middle of the night and someone needs you for something, and ring a bell or whatever, and you got to go hurry up down there. Half asleep. It's like God, man. But again, I'm sure. Well, things weren't easy all the way around. So, but it does strike me whenever I see them because we were in one building in particular. God, I can't remember what town. I don't remember what town. This is going back 10 years ago, maybe more, 15. And we were investigating one of these homes where, again, the upper level was for servants, and there were smaller rooms, and there was one here, and there was one over on the side, and there was one over a little tiny bathroom, and there was nothing going on in the building. Nothing. I mean, nothing. Downstairs, anywhere, nothing. And it got to the point where we had already been there 4 hours. Now we're setting up in the very last spot we're going to investigate, which was slave quarters, and nothing's happening. We're trying. And then it got to the point where we noticed the steps. And we were joking about, oh my God, like, how many times did people fall down these steps? Could you imagine trying to run and oh my God, we're kind of like joking about like how dangerous they were. And we got a disembodied voice in the room that we could hear. And then we got 2 EVPs, and it was somebody who was very, very angry that we were making fun of those stairs. And then we started to have some interaction. Hey, Kathy, how are you? So that was one of those times. A lot of times, if you investigate enough times, there are times where when you're trying, things are not happening, and when you're not, they start happening, which is really weird. There have been times where we're just hanging out and talking, and did you hear that? And then hey, are you here? Blah 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 blah. Nothing. All right, well, blah blah blah. We start talking again, and it happens again. So, really, really strange how that works. But for now, like I said, Chris is still recovering from her flu that she's had basically since before she left. We had a great time in the city, but probably shouldn't have gone in because we were exposed to every virus and germ under the sun. And she was sick the whole time she was visiting her son-in-law, daughter, grandson. And she came back and she was still real congested, and she's still just tired a lot. So even the night, the Creeper Gallery, I was just like, she put on her winter hat and her boots. And I looked at her like, what do you think you're doing? And she goes, I hope you don't get mad if I can't make it. And I'm like, I didn't think you were going to make it. I wasn't even going to ask you to come, So she's not quite there yet. So we'll get there. From what I hear, a lot of people have this flu, cold, whatever thing. So be careful. I see a lot more masks out there now than I have before in stores and everywhere else I go, which I don't blame you because it ain't fun, this thing, whatever it is. And it's everywhere. I got sick on Christmas Eve and had been, what? That's silly good. Yeah, that's, Laura, you're not the only one. I'm getting messages from other people. Kathy, I was just talking about you. Happy New Year. I'm getting messages from other people that we know, and wishing me Happy New Year. And they're telling me that they're real sick and they've been sick for a while. So I hope all you guys feel better. It's that time of the year, which is, another reason why I don't like scheduling events in January. January, mostly January because it's cold and people are getting sick. The holidays just happen. February because the weather's such a freaking wild card. Not that it's not in January. I'll tell you a quick story about again sickness and all that stuff. Uh, oh, you just got it, Kathy. I'm considering it. COVID. I will never forget this as long as I live. Um, COVID was just starting to become a thing. Now, February of that year, um, my 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 mom got COVID. They didn't know it was COVID yet. So my mom went from being perfectly fine on a Friday to the next day came to see her and she was out of it and she just was kind of like sitting there. And I had asked, the nurse and stuff, like something's wrong with her. And I thought she had maybe a UTI. And she goes, oh, no, well, I'll have the doctor look at her. I said, she's not herself. Could you have a doctor look at her? Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, I'll have a doctor look at her. Oh, yeah. I'm like, no, really, she's not herself. So hours later, I find out my mother's in the ER. And I rush there. By the time I get there, she's intubated. And again, nobody knew what this was yet. So just to see my mom, I had to wear a mask, a shield, um, two pairs of gloves, and a gown. And that's just to be in the room with her initially. Again, before they really knew what this was, and then they stopped letting people visit people in the hospital, altogether. But anyway, my mother got it on a Monday and was gone, 3 days later, and then we heard about COVID and what was going on, and all the people that were passing, and the senior housing, the housing, and all that, how they were basically being wiped out, and it was nothing you could do about it. It was so anyway. It just was starting to build where people were now getting scared because they didn't know what it was and people were dying. So it was just starting to reach the point where people were hearing about more and more people dying. And we had an event, never forget this, as long as I live, at Liberty Hall. And it was in March. And it was one of those things where there were discussions about not doing the event because there was this thing now that everyone was talking about. Nothing had shut down yet. We weren't at that point. But there was this discussion where, hey, this thing's pretty bad. People are getting real sick. It's respiratory. It's, bad pneumonia, whatever. And we decided, we're going to do the event anyway. And I'm not sure if we wore masks or not. I know there were people who were on that were at that event. Kathy, I know you were probably there. What happened was, again, the word is spreading, rumors are spreading, yet people came to the event. We're halfway through the event and we take a break and everything's fine. We finish out the event, and I'm not going to lie, again, this is weeks after my mom had passed, probably 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month. And I was scared like everyone else. I was scared. And I'm like, saying to Chris and stuff, we really shouldn't be around other people. We really should limit. We shouldn't be doing these events. But we wanted to do that one because it still wasn't crazy yet. They hadn't shut anything down. And I still remember I had a bit of a cough, but it wasn't, it wasn't hacking. It wasn't phlegmy or whatever. It was just a bit of a cough. And we went to the diner afterwards like we always do. And I coughed once, the people in the diner, and there was a few looks over my way. And then I coughed again, and this time was a little harder. And now I'm really getting like, what are you doing in here coughing, you crazy person? Like they were looking at me like, you need to get the what out of here. So I felt uncomfortable. Everybody else obviously was uncomfortable because I was coughing. So we did. We kind of finished real quick. We got out of there. On the way home, I get a call from somebody, and I'm not going to mention any names or who's involved in any of this. And they said, I think it was from Liberty Hall or one of the representatives, and they said, somebody called us and they said they heard people talking during the break, and one of them said that they were exposed to COVID. That somebody, they work in a building and they were in an elevator with someone who definitely has COVID now. Now remember, these are the days when it was just starting to really become before this is like days before the shutdown, where everything shut down. And now I'm worried. Everybody else is worried. And I'm thinking to myself, who could this have been? Who could have been talking? And they're like, there were people outside during the break. So I'm literally looking through my phone because I take pictures of every event. And I'm like, sending them back and forth to the person I'm talking to going, which person was it? Do you know which person was it? Do you know which person was it? And they're like, this person. And I said, I know that person. So I now have to get in touch with that person because potentially, again, nobody knew how this thing worked or what could happen. Potentially, everybody at our event could have gotten COVID, and at that time, who knew what could have happened? So I'm nervous, and I'm like, my God, what have we done? We probably shouldn't have done this event. If somebody gets sick, if something happens, I'm never going to forgive myself. So I reach out to the person who was in the photo, who they said was talking about being exposed. And this person said to me, no. This person said, I work in a building somewhere and I happen to use an elevator that another company that works in the same building, one of their employees has COVID. I wasn't in the elevator with the person. I never saw the person, but apparently that person had used that elevator that day. This is how crazy things were at those times. So, this person's like, I wasn't exposed. I don't have it. I don't feel sick. I don't. So I, again, had to relay that to the people at Liberty Hall, who then had to relay it to everyone that was there because people were nervous. It was a crazy time, So that was the very last event that we did before the shutdown. And then everything stopped. And I'll never, ever forget that. A, because, again, I lost my mom to COVID. And B, because that was really, really, really scary, scary times. I mean, from going to the event and what happened to going into the diner. And I'm not kidding when I say, well, I just, a couple of times people were like, what are you doing? It was like, like I had a bomb on me or something. They're looking at me like, what are you doing? Coughing in here, And it was nuts. It really was nuts. And that's when we started basically staying home all the time. You guys know. And we started doing this, because we were so bored and we had nothing to do. And we were just like, hey, we have a Facebook page with a live stream thing on it. Let's just go there and talk about nothing. And here we are 6 years later talking about nothing. So yeah, those were different. That was a different time, man. Looking back, honestly, you watch the TV shows from back at COVID. Again, some didn't have a studio audience, others had, the mask and all that. It's weird to think that we went through that, It was very scary. 12-1 BM Health reports on TV saying, yeah, that's the thing that really, when it got nuts and they knew what it was and they kept doing the reports on, there were several nursing homes near me and around me that were almost wiped out by COVID. I mean, that's no joke. I know that feeling well. COVID say you don't have COVID. Yeah, I'm sure, Kathy, you of all people, back in those days, because Kathy will cough from time to time. She gets dry and she coughs. But those were different times. I don't mean to get off on a COVID tangent. I'm just saying that, you know, this time of year, especially once you get in around the holidays and in January, this is when this stuff is really like wildfire. You know what I mean? So we got out under the, you know, under the line there with the Hoover event and with the Creeper Gallery event, and then, you know, all this stuff, people getting sick and holidays. So like I said, better to sit out most of January, if not all January, and then February, worry about the weather. That is, February is such a wild card, man. January now, I mean, look at the weather we're having now. It's such a wild card this time of year. But I know that Danielle misses it. I'm sure Nikki misses it. Chris is still recovering, and you know, I you know, I'd like to get back out there, but you know, it's going to be, we'll figure out what and when soon enough, and how much, you know, this year. A lot of things are different this year, so like I said, we'll figure that out together. So hopefully we'll have an announcement soon. I mean, I mentioned Burlington Prison just to see how people felt about that. I know, again, last year, that's all I got asked was in November and October, are we going to the prison? Are we going to the prison? And I'm just like, wow, people really want to go back there, you know? So, I mean, if that's something you guys want to do and that's what you want to be the first one, then, you know, that'll be the first one. We'll do that. I don't know, maybe end of January, early February. We'll kick it off there, and then we'll go probably, like you guys said, probably Innskeep after that, and then, you know, away we go. I got new equipment too that I need to try out too, Alex. I think we all kind of went through that phase over the winter. I was mentioning the well, John McGinnis, I'm sure that wasn't because you sneezed. You just draw that kind of attention. But and I'm sure it wasn't a sneeze either. But anyway, that one box that I have, Kathy had mentioned it, that she had it too. It's oh really? Old Ghost Hunters, Burlington Prison. That little box is a motion sensor. It has a PIR sensor on it, and when it's triggered, it does the tiptoe through the tulips. There is nothing scarier than that song. I'm sorry, and I think that's from that movie. What was it, Insidious? That did that, and the thought of that. And believe me, as much as I wanted it to go off at the Creeper Gallery, I really didn't want it to go off at the Creeper Gallery, because I put it in the deemed dangerous room, and I'm thinking, man, if that thing in the dark starts playing that Tiny Tim song, I don't know if I'm gonna sit this one out and just stay here while that thing is something's triggering that music over and over again. So I did want it to go off, but I didn't. But no, there are I've got some new toys. We've got some new things that we're going to try. Chris was talking about something just today, actually, that she wants to try a new type of experiment. So I like the idea of, you too, Karen. I like the idea of trying new things with new equipment, even using old equipment in new ways. And I like just experimenting. I really do. I think it's fascinating on so many levels to try. I told you I did it in my living room, which I shouldn't have done. And the shelf came crashing down. And that to me was really cool, but really bizarre. Now, what happens if I try that same thing in a building like Burlington Prison, where there are all these convicts and people, murderers, and you know, people that were murdered, and people that died of starvation and sickness and whatever. I mean, what comes through at that point? You know what I mean? So it's cool. I'm looking forward to it. But like I said, we'll decide soon enough. I like experimenting too. So again, it's one of those things where um, it should be, again, interactive. So, that's one thing this year. If you guys have an idea, um, and you want to shoot me a message through the page here of an experiment that you've seen or you want to try that we could try to incorporate, into an event, hey, I'm all for it. As long as I should talk. As long as it's in the realm of normalcy, like we're not gonna like do any kind of animal ritual weird stuff like that. But I mean, if there's something you think, if you have a piece of equipment and you thought of a cool new experiment or something different that you want to try, and you're coming to an event, shoot me a message, tell me about it, and we'll talk about it and we'll figure out like how we could do something like that. Like I said, Chris has a pretty good idea of something she wants to do. So I'm all about trying the different, new, and the weird and the strange. You know me. I mean, there isn't too much that I shy away from when it comes to doing this stuff, except for animal stuff. I am just no. I watched that one Ghost Adventure when they went in there, and they were in some hospital where the Satanists were all in there, and there were fresh animal sacrifices on the floor. I think they were like baby goats or something, and they were still in the blood stains. And oh my god, I was like horrified by that. So yeah, anything that's short of animal stuff, we try. So again, any ideas, even if there's a concept of an idea, do try this with that. Send it to me. I'd be happy to try it out and try it out in a group setting where we can actually experiment with it and see if it works or if it doesn't work. Or maybe others can add their ideas into the mix and say, hey, this is good, but maybe we should try to do this with this and that. It should be that kind of collective interactive thing. So shoot me a message if you have any ideas. All right, guys, that's it. Friday night. Enjoy your weekend. I'll probably be back on Sunday night before I go back to the Creeper next week sometime. But I'll start working on the calendar and dates for events and setting up interviews. Like I said, Amy Bruni will probably come on. I want to have some other people on to talk about some other stuff. So we'll do it. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Chris, I'm sure we'll be back next time. Till then, have a good night. See you soon.